In this video, I want to teach you how to ride a dirt bike for a dirt bike beginner. What's up, Rad family? I'm Dakota Freeman and welcome to the Rad Adventure Dude channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to use all 5 of the dirt bike controls. I'm going to show you some good riding position techniques. So the 5 controls on a dirt bike are going to be the throttle, the clutch, the gear shifter, the front brake, and the rear brake. These 5 controls are what we're going to use when we're learning how to ride to have the most control out of our dirt bikes. So let's go ahead and cover where all these are located. The throttle is going to be a twist grip on the handlebars. On the left-hand side of our handlebars, we're going to have the clutch, and it's the lever that we pull in. Right by our left foot, we're going to have our gear shifter. And then right by our throttle on our handlebars, and the lever in front of the throttle is going to be the front brake. And by our right foot, we're going to have our rear brake lever. So before you even get on a dirt bike and start learning how to ride, you need to go ahead and know where all 5 of these controls are, so that way you don't have to look for them while you're learning how to ride. It should already be very comfortable, and you should know where everything's located on your dirt bike. To actually get the bike going into motion, we're going to have to use the throttle, the clutch, and the gear shifter to put the bike in gear and get it rolling. To do this, what we're going to do is to let off our throttle and pull in our clutch. Once the clutch is all the way pulled in, we're now going to use our left foot and shift the bike down into first gear. Now that the bike's in first gear and you begin to let the clutch out, as soon as you hit the point of motion where the bike actually wants to roll forward, you're going to simultaneously add a little bit of throttle while you're continually letting the clutch out easily and smoothly all the way until it's completely released. As you put throttle on when you had that point of motion, you're now going to just continually let out the clutch until it's completely released and you're rolling in motion. This is going to be kind of difficult when we first learn on our dirt bike, so just spend some time to practice it, as it's going to be so important that we master this part of our riding so it doesn't become so frustrating when we're out on the tracks and trails. It needs to be so easy for us to just put the bike in gear and to let the clutch out, put a little throttle on, and get rolling, and we don't really want to have to think about it. And I know at the beginning this is going to be frustrating, but keep with it, keep practicing, and it's really going to help your riding. And since this video is going to be more based for a dirt bike beginner, I want to talk more about using the rear brake than the front brake. Later, when you're becoming a better rider and wanting to brake faster and better, then you're going to use more front brake. But since we're learning here, let's go ahead and talk about the rear brake. The rear brake is what we're going to use when we're learning how to ride a dirt bike, and we want to bring the bike to a stop in the easiest way possible. All you have to do is use your right foot and tap down on the rear brake lever, and this is going to start to bring the bike to a stop. As you tap the brake down, make sure that you pull the clutch in so that you don't stop the spinning motion of the rear wheel too much and actually stall the dirt bike. By pulling in the clutch when you're using your rear brake, you're actually going to free up the gears and free up the motor. This is going to really help you from stalling your dirt bike and bringing you to an abrupt stop. So every time you use your rear brake, which is going to be kind of like a slide, so it's not going to be a very aggressive brake to use, and this is why I suggest it for when we're learning on our dirt bikes. Just make sure that you use your clutch when you're using your rear brake so you don't stall the dirt bike. I do want to cover a little bit about the front brake because it's going to be very important later that we use the front brake even more than the back brake. The front brake is going to be the lever right by our throttle. This lever is going to be very touchy, so be careful when you first start using your front brake and make sure that you always have the wheel pointed in a straight direction. You don't want to have the wheel turned at all when you're using your front brake. It really needs to be in a straight line, and this is going to keep us from locking up our front brakes and putting us on the ground. So make sure whenever you start using your front brake that you brake in a straight line and kind of feather your brake and use it lightly, and then feel how it reacts with your bike before you just grab a handful of front brake, as this lever can be a very aggressive way to stop the dirt bike. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure you hit that and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future dirt bike riding tips. So now that we know how to use the controls and we know how to get the bike rolling in motion, let's talk about shifting gears really quick. Shifting gears is going to be a huge thing whenever we're getting into riding and wanting to ride faster, because when we put the bike in gear at the beginning, we're in a low gear, which has a ton of acceleration, but really doesn't have that much top speed. And this is why we need to learn how to shift through the gears to be able to get up in the higher gears where we have more top speed, and the throttles are going to be a little bit more mellow in these higher gears as well. This is because the gear is not just a gear ratio based on acceleration, and it's a little bit longer gear range, which is going to be better for our top speed on our dirt bikes. So when we're getting into shifting gears, you want to listen to the RPM level of the dirt bike. The RPM level should never just be as high as possible, and you really want to keep it in a good medium range. So when you hear the bike when you first start going, it's going to be at a low RPM range, and as you accelerate through your gear, eventually you're going to hear a point where it's at a high RPM range, and right before it plateaus out and we actually begin to lose power, we want to shift up into the next gear. Shifting up is actually going to give us more top speed out of our bike. It's going to give us a little bit less acceleration, but since you already have momentum built here, you don't need your gear to have just acceleration, and you actually want more top speed coming from your gear. It's also going to be much better for your dirt bike to ride in a gear that's not just all the way at the top of the RPM level all the time. It's good to be able to shift up and put the bike back at a lower RPM range where we can continue gathering speed and continue gaining momentum in this gear. Eventually you're going to do the same thing and have to shift up again as you continue getting better, and just get comfortable with this because it's going to be something that we do a lot when we're riding on our dirt bikes. So now that we know how to get the bike going and we know how to shift, let's go ahead and talk about our riding position for when we're learning how to ride a dirt bike for a dirt bike beginner. So when we're learning on a dirt bike as a dirt bike beginner, it's going to be very important that we stay pretty centralized on our dirt bikes. Since we're beginning here, we're probably going to be sitting down, and that's okay to start. Just make sure that you're sitting in the middle of the seat and that you always have your elbows up. Having your elbows up and away from your body gives you so much more power and control over the handlebars, and is really going to be something that you need to instill in your riding before you even get out there and start riding. So keep your elbows up, and this is really going to keep you safe. Plus, keeping our head more forward on the dirt bike and over the handlebars is going to be another huge step to making sure that you're in the right riding position when you're on your dirt bike. It's going to be important that we have our head forward to keep our weight a little bit more forward. As we accelerate on the dirt bike, it's going to want to pick up the front wheel, and having our weight centralized and our head a little bit more forward just keeps weight on the front end of the dirt bike and keeps it from popping up and doing a wheelie. So make sure that when you're learning how to ride, that you're riding with the right body position, as it's really going to make you so much safer and make you a better dirt bike rider. Learning these good habits now, before we get out on the tracks and trails, is going to be huge to making sure that we constantly are doing them. Eventually, as you have these good habits built in your riding style, you're not even going to have to think about it, and it's all going to become natural. Other things we need to think about when we're learning how to ride a dirt bike is going to be how our feet are on the dirt bike pegs. We want to stand on the balls of our feet on the dirt bike peg. This is going to give us more mobility out of our ankles, and we won't accidentally hit the gear shifter or the rear brake because our feet are actually back on the pegs where they should be. Then we're going to have to get comfortable with moving our feet forward to hit the gear shifter or the rear brake, and then bring our feet back to continue standing on the balls of our feet. I know this is a lot to think about right now, but just stick with it, as you're going to become a better rider every time you go riding on your dirt bike. Rad family, I'm so proud of you for getting into your dirt bike riding and really wanting to become a better rider. If you're still looking for more dirt bike riding tips, I'm always here. I've made a full dirt bike riding course over on my website that's going to walk you through being a complete beginner and take you to an advanced rider mastering the tracks and trails. I also have a full free dirt bike guide that I'm giving away on my website. All you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. Make sure you like this video and drop some comments down below and ask me any other questions that you have. Make sure you hit the subscribe button that's right here and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future dirt bike riding tips. After that, you can watch my next video right here. Stay rad, and I'll see you over there.